Superhero films are great. They bring joy and entertainment to millions of viewers who end up feeling inspired and yearning for the next big entry. But for every awesome, memorable, and funny moment that's delivered in superhero films, there's the bad stuff. The unforgettable, uncomfortable moments that make us want to cringe and wonder why they weren't left on the cutting room floor. Here are CBR's 10 cringeworthy moments in superhero movies. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay fully up to date on all the awesome geeky content coming out of CBR. SpiderMan III. You knew we were gonna hit the ground running with this one, didn't you? That's okay. We don't blame you, as this moment is a glowing standout when it comes to cringe moments. In the first two Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, Peter Parker was a nerdy outcast who didn't have much in the way of swagger or style, but more than made up for it by being a decent person and being able to swing across the city in a red suit. All that changed for Spider-Man 3 as Parker adopted the symbiote, which not only caused his suit to turn black, but also caused Peter's normally shy demeanor to change, and not in the way you might imagine. What we got was this. Spider-Man himself with an emo haircut walking down the street doing awkward jazz hands to passersby before engaging in a terrible musical dance number in a jazz club in front of both Gwen and Mary Jane. Ugh. Batman and Robin. It'd be a cheat to say everything in this movie was cringeworthy. It's true that so much of it was, from lines of dialogue to the infamous bat card scene to having ice skates inside the batsuit. For us, the cringe comes from Mr. Freeze himself.
You lie!
Played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, who got top billing over George Clooney, Freeze decided that no matter the situation, it was always a good time to deliver a pun or a one-liner.
Let's kick some ice.
The one that put us in a deep freeze, however, was Arnold's historically inaccurate and laughably terrible delivery on the Ice Age.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
Not only is this line on a whole different level of cringe, but it's also wrong, creating a double cringe moment in one moment. Talk about racking up a combo. When you're on a roll, we suppose. Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four remake was a bit of a disaster, and that's keeping things rather understated. The 2015 reboot ended up with a 9% score on the tomato meter and a 4.3 on 10 on IMDb. Domestically, it didn't do so well financially, but thanks to international sales, managed to make back its budget. So, what would be the most cringeworthy moment in a movie filled with them? Well, for us, it had to be the very end of the movie.
Come a long way since the garage.
Gotta say, it's fantastic.
It was surely supposed to be a cutesy little moment that fans would love, but it went horribly wrong. The team stand together in the final moments of the film trying to decide on a name for the team, which results in some painful examples being tossed in the air.
The Human Torch and the Torchettes.
It only gets worse as the Thing tosses the word fantastic into his sentence in passing, and therein lies the origin of the name Fantastic Four. Grimes had it right earlier. Ugh, kill me indeed. Howard the Duck. Oh, where to even start with this one? We're all familiar with the really creepy relationship between Howard the Duck and Lea Thompson's character in the Marvel adaptation produced by Lucasfilm. But what about the rest of the film? Howard the Duck is already an oddball character, and the 1986 film didn't do him any favors. Nominated for 7 Razzies, this George Lucas-produced film could probably fill a list of its own. But the standout moment for us comes at the film's end, when Howard the Duck decides to go on stage and shred his guitar in front of a live audience. You have to remind yourself that this is a movie based on a Marvel property because the cringe level is so high. To make matters worse, Howard's creepy requests to have Lea Thompson kiss him make us want to squirm and burn any evidence of this movie's existence. Green Lantern. You know a movie didn't do very well when its lead actor continues to rail on it for years after it was made.
Please don't make the super suit green. Or animated.
This is the case for the Green Lantern film, which starred Ryan Reynolds. The film has its fair share of cringe, from some of Reynolds' lines to the appearance of both Parallax and Hector Hammond's big brain design. Yikes. But for us, the biggest cringy moment in the film comes from Hammond looking normal, but acting anything but. When the Doctor goes to a party, he ends up seeing Blake Lively's Carol Ferries. Any normal person would greet a colleague or peer with a handshake, maybe a hug, but Dr. Hammond decides to go full creeper mode and think it's a smooth move to sniff Carol's hair. No matter what supervillain excuse he has, it definitely made us cringe having to watch it. Suicide Squad. After delivering some really awesome trailers, fan expectations for Suicide Squad were sky high. They were ultimately shot down as the film failed to deliver for both critics and fans. This is partly due to the incredibly choppy story, unlikable characters, and stilted dialogue. One such moment that had us cringing in our seats was the introduction of Katana, Rick Flagg's trusty sidekick.
Her sword traps the souls of its victims.
What could have been a pretty sweet scene got turned into an overblown and exposition-heavy moment, complete with Flagg painfully and loudly delivering the facts about Katana and her sword that left audiences confused and in disbelief. Not only was the information not needed, but the lines were in a cringe league all their own. Why couldn't we learn this through visual cues instead of it being so awkwardly delivered instead? In a film full of some pretty cringy scenes, this one takes the cake. Just remember, don't get on her bad side. Her sword will eat your soul. Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. It may seem like we're going after the Fantastic films, but we think it's agreeable that they were anything but. In the first Fantastic Four film that came out in 2005, the team goes up to space and comes down as reluctant superheroes that ultimately find their groove. Cut to the second film, and we have time for nonsense like this. In one truly memorable moment, Mr. Fantastic takes it upon himself to hit up the dance floor, which would already be cringe-inducing in the first place, but the film went above and beyond in this instance. As Mr. Fantastic's power allows him to stretch his body parts, he decides to get in on the dance by literally letting loose. Spaghetti Body twirls up to the ceiling and even gives a euphoric smile as he reaches the top. We're sure there's a metaphor there somewhere. To make matters worse, an X Games reporter asks Johnny Storm in the first movie if Mr. Fantastic is capable of expanding any part of his anatomy. It's no wonder this film needed rebooting.
Yes, unfortunately.
Daredevil. The 2003 Ben Affleck version of Daredevil has no shortage of cringeworthy moments, from the playground fight scene to stilted lines of dialogue throughout. For us though, the most cringe-inducing moments come from Colin Farrell's portrayal of Bullseye. Things start off pretty well, to be honest, as the villain blindly shoots darts into a board while chugging a beer. It all goes downhill from there, however. In the director's cut of the film, we get a really random and out-of-place scene in an airport where Bullseye rides up the escalator with his arms extended as if he was some kind of messiah, set to some truly terrible guitar music. He then proceeds to go through the metal detectors, chewing on a paperclip, and calming a guard down by rubbing his forehead. What's even going on here? We're glad it was cut for the theatrical version, but why bring it back in the director's cut? X-Men Origins: Wolverine. What happens when you take one of the most beloved comic book characters and put him in a film alongside Wolverine? Awesomeness should be the word, but instead we got a horrific and cringeworthy appearance by Deadpool? Is that really you?
I know, right?
Instead of the classic red suit and non-stop talking, something else took his place. Fans of the Merc with the Mouth hardly recognized Deadpool, who not only had his mouth sewn shut, but was able to teleport and shoot laser beams out of his eyes. Fans couldn't help but feel baffled and confused as to what was going on as Weapon 11 made his entrance at the end of X-Men Origins Wolverine, and quickly came to reject this version of Deadpool. Thankfully, Ryan Reynolds is known to make fun of his own material and threw in a quick jab at the cringeworthy iteration in the much better and fan-favorite film Deadpool in 2016. Batman v Superman. It's no secret that Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice was something of a missed opportunity. It polarized fans and was poorly received by critics. The beautiful cinematography did its best to hide a muddled script and some bizarre character moments.
Because that is paradoxical and,
One such moment came at the pivotal end of the heavily advertised fight between the Caped Crusader and the last son of Krypton. After being rivals and even enemies for the majority of the film, Bats and Soups eventually get the chance to throw down in a pretty epic fight to the death. But as soon as Batman gets the Man of Steel on the ropes, something odd and really cringeworthy happens.
Save Martha!
See, it turns out that both Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent's mother's names are Martha, and that epiphany that Wayne has suddenly erases a whole movie's worth of campaigning against Superman. To make matters worse, the line delivery for both actors was painful to watch.
Why did you say that name?
Here's hoping the Justice League and Wonder Woman have more of the good stuff and less of the cringy stuff. So there you have it, our 10 most cringeworthy moments in superhero films. What did you think of our list? What's the biggest cringeworthy scene that you had to sit through? Did you ever end up having to watch it again? Does one cringy scene really make or break a movie? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to join the notification squad and stay up to date with all things CBR.